So God of War Ragnarok finally got its most awaited photo mode feature and probably the biggest patch since release. This one introduces an extensive list of changes and bug fixes that many of you were probably waiting for, with the exception of one that is still missing and might take a long while until we get to see it. As always, a thumbs up on this video would be appreciated, and let's get started. If you head over in game right now, press the pause menu and then the square button that you can also see the prompt of right here at the bottom, you're going to bring up the new photo mode feature. Now this one is pretty straightforward. You have control over the camera mode with the field of view, focal length, camera roll, and so on. There's also option for various vibrance settings, even applying filters or influencing the exposure. There's depth of field in there, I believe, at some point, and also a few like borders and logos that you can apply on your screen. And finally, as it was also the case with the previous God of War game, you can also like do these face emotes for Kratos, except this time around you can also do them for some of your companions if you happen to have them. You can even like toggle them on or off if you don't want them to appear on screen, or otherwise you can take screenshots with them and also influence whatever like animation or like face emote they might have at any given time. There's about 18 of them in total, with many of them being repeats from the previous God of War game, but I believe there's also a couple of new ones in there too. Unfortunately, this is pretty much the extent of the photo mode. Personally, I'm just happy that I can finally take proper screenshots of Kratos and not have to rely on the PS5 share button like how I had to do with my thumbnails up until this point. And I believe there's gonna be a lot of people in there that will be happy, especially in cutscenes, to take some cool, high detailed photos. But that is pretty much it with the newest feature. Everything else is just bug fixes to existing problems, and unfortunately one of them is missing, which is New Game Plus. We're not getting that, at least not in patch V03, which is the name of this one. It seems that it's going to take Sony Santa Monica a little bit longer until they finally implement it. So if it does get implemented at some point, we are going to talk about it, because it's probably going to require a bit more coding and a bit more time, and who knows, maybe some extra rewards as well. But in the meantime, I'm going to go over just a few of the fixes we've seen in the meantime. For the narrative and the story, they fixed a case where a narrative moment would repeat incorrectly when reloading a save in the quest called The Reckoning. They also fixed a few cases where stories in the boat were interrupted incorrectly. In case you happen to like just go back to shore, yeah, they were oftentimes interrupted for no reason. In terms of the quests and progression, they fixed a case where the area from the quest called the Weight of Chains could get into a bad state, preventing the players from returning to that area. They also fixed a case where the demolition labor could not be completed, and they also fixed a number of cases where the companion would become stuck and not follow you, the player, or move to a required location. For me personally, this happened quite often in the first starting hours. They fixed a case where a crane will be stuck in the wrong position when backtracking during the quest called the Quest for Tyr, or exploring the area later. This is pretty much like just before heading over into the mines section, and this also leads you to some pretty strong items early on if you pay attention to it, but we talked about it in a different video. I'm pretty sure that some of you also experienced this, but they also fixed the bug where you could like just get stuck in the boss fight when reloading a previous autosave in the quest called Creatures of Prophecy. I believe that this instance of this bug would also like come up in other different types of boss encounters too, if the autosave saved right as you were about to die. They also fixed a case where the player would not be able to equip the mask during the quest called Unlocking the Mask. And they also fixed a case where interacting with the tombstone in Midgard while on the sled prevented the player from later using the temple elevator during the quest called Hunting for Solace. There's a lot of other changes in here for the quest and the progress, so I'm gonna just leave you the link down below to the patch notes. In the meantime, let's check a few for general gameplay, because they fixed the buff in this case where the player could fall out of the world when picking up the lost pages, and they also fixed other instances where you could clip through the game world or just fall under the map when interacting with different objects, including dropping down from a ledge. And by the way, there was also a case where your companion would do the same, falling through the ground. That was also addressed in a new update. In terms of the combat, there's an extensive list of changes, so I'm just going to go over a few more important ones. They fixed the case where the stun grab prompt would not appear when fighting the Maven, and they fixed the case where Kratos could clip into bosses, causing unwanted behaviors in the quest called Reunion. They also fixed the case where the player could be unable to use a Resurrection Stone in the boss fight during the quest Defend Your Valor. And there's many other rare cases and bugs where stun grabbing or the stun grabbed prompt would like just bug out and you would not be able to use it or see it. So those were also instances that were addressed in this new patch. They also fixed rare cases where enemies would not play a hit reaction for some runic attacks or slopes. And the really annoying one that would prevent you use a runic attack when changing an equipped runic attack immediately after using it. So that was also addressed. I believe that also the Crimson Dragon fights in the For Vanaheim quest when you reach the crater region was also fixed. At some point this dragon would not engage in combat, so that was also addressed in this new update. In any case, we do have stability and performance fixes and also a bunch of like other stuff in there that some of you might like. If you're playing on the PlayStation 4, you might notice some slight improved loading times of enemies in certain locations and also improved environmental loading times when traversing the world. Many stability improvements and crash fixes, including when transitioning to the end credits, when using the map, the settings menu, also when doing certain main quests like surviving Fimbulwinter, the Runaway, Forging Destiny, Unleashing Hell, and so on and so forth. And they also fixed the case where the game could become unresponsive after defeating the Flame Phantom while exploring Vanaheim. There's also a number of visual and lighting issues that were fixed throughout the game, so yeah, if you notice any more of these, totally let me know down below in the comments. Finally, there's a few more in this case for the UI and the UX. So they fixed the case where using the upgrade bench in Jotunheim could cause the character to be unresponsive, requiring a restart from checkpoint to correct. They also fixed a few cases where the journal pages would appear blank when quickly navigating through the journal pages, and they fixed several cases where the journal in general could have missing information in case you had any of that happen. There were plenty of bugs in there too, where Kratos could get stuck in the wrong pose in the equipment menu. You probably even saw a few of these that were pretty funny when quickly switching between weapons or trying to do animation cancelling. Some of them were quite hilarious to say the least, but it seems that quite a few of them were addressed. Not really sure if some of them are still available, because it definitely seems that at least a couple of them are harder to like do right now in this new update, but I think people are going to discover new ones anyway. And this is pretty much it with the patch notes. Again, if you want to see a more extensive look on them and like the rest of the other changes, you're going to have the links down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.